Robert Johnson is said to have sold his soul to the devil, played guitar in the cemetery, and had to run away from hellhounds. Today, we're going to delve a little bit deeper and I'll be discussing his mentor. Now, in my last video, I talked about Robert's backstory and what led him to the infamous moment of selling his soul, allegedly. Today, I'm going to talk more about the hoodoo elements that are laced within his story and about his mentor, Ike Zimmerman. And Ike's contributions to Robert's development as a guitarist are significant but somehow often forgotten, and they're likely the reason we even have the legend of Robert Johnson at all. You can also likely thank Ike for the reason that Robert is so heavily tied to hoodoo, because between the two of them and their songwriting, we get a lot of the lore that exists around Robert Johnson altogether. But depending on what you believe, whether or not he sold his soul to the devil, made a deal with Papa Legba, or just decided to use the devil as a marketing tool, Robert Johnson is a mysterious figure. And in the picture behind me, we have an image of Ike Zimmerman. Now, Ike was born in 1907 in Grady, Alabama, but at one point during his life, he relocated to Mississippi, where he would meet and marry a woman named Ruth. At one point, they would then relocate to the town of Beauregard, Mississippi, where they would have some kids and settle down. But Ike was known, much like Johnson, to frequent the juke joints and play his guitar, where he picked up the reputation for being an exceptionally good guitar player. In fact, I think a lot of people would describe him as extremely good. And so, during Johnson's year-long hiatus, when he was looking for his father, he did eventually reconnect with Ike. And probably understanding the plight of Johnson wanting to become better at his guitar and not finding any good mentorship to teach him, Ike agreed to teach Johnson the guitar. Now, this was not without some issue, though, because one of Ike's requirements was to go and play at the cemetery at night. And so he and Johnson, during the year long that he was away, would go into the Beauregard Cemetery right across the street from his home and play to the ghost at night. And Zimmerman told Robert during this time that the reason they're doing this is, one, because it's a judgment-free zone, two, because you won't disturb anybody with your terrible guitar playing, and three, because the only way to truly learn the blues is for the Haints to come inside you and teach them to you. And so I think that's where the hoodoo elements of that story kind of come into play mainly. So, was it really the devil? Who knows? Could it really have just been ghosts who bestowed that information on Johnson? Possibly. But the two would go on to form a good friendship and relationship. And an aside, it kind of reminded me of this. Now, even though Ike and Robert were close in age, only being 4 years apart from each other, their relationship reminded me a lot of Naruto and Jiraiya, with Robert being Naruto and Jiraiya being Ike. And this is because during his 1 year time skip where he went away on this hiatus, Robert picked up the most skills that he would ever have in his life. And during this time together, Ike and Robert would write a number of songs together that point largely towards the culture of hoodoo that was prevalent in the Delta during that time, some which include Dust My Broom, Come On In My Kitchen, and Hellhound on My Trail. And the last song is the one that gets Robert famously tied to selling his soul to the devil. But the truth of the matter is that most of the music written during that time, especially in African American communities, was largely symbolic in nature. And so the song Hellhound on My Trail had less to do with the devil and his hellhounds and more to do with the white people who were known to chase black people down and do unspeakable things to them. But also keep in mind that Robert had very close experience with this through his mother. Because remember, Robert's mother experienced this for herself and likely told him the story of his stepfather, or her first husband, who was ran out of town by angry white people who were jealous of his success. And then we have the song Come On In My Kitchen, which is a song that details Robert Johnson taking the last nickel out of a woman's nation sack. Basically, a nation sack and the nickel within it represents a woman's sexual power or the spell that she can put over men. And so with Robert taking that nickel, he no longer has to worry about that woman. And basically, he can go and do as he pleases. And then we also have Dust My Broom, which is symbolic of getting the hell out of your house in the morning or just being in a hurry. And one thing that I love about this documentary is that it makes sure to place us in the time that Robert was existing. And so the documentary states, and I think it's important for the video, that Robert was existing only one generation away from slavery. And a lot of the slave or Negro spirituals that we do have were based in code because that was a means of survival. And so this wouldn't go away in the generation of freedom that many Black Americans at the time were experiencing. And so it existed still through song, which is likely why, for those who are unfamiliar, a lot of the songs Robert sang can feel very demonic in nature. On top of this, I think it's important to mention that the documentary also makes a point to state that blues, rock, it never came from the church, right? You might have had classically trained singers in the church or choir singers in the church that sang blues and rock music, but it came from the fields, which is where that pain and suffering came from. And to close out Ike's story, about 12 years or so after Johnson passed away, he finally gave up rock music and the blues in order to pursue the church, which was in his nature of wanting to help people grow and become better. But anyways, let me know if you liked this video or what you enjoyed or what you didn't enjoy. I want to hear all of your feedback, and I'll see you guys in my next video.